The Green Mile cast has finally revealed what most fans never picked up on, and it completely changes everything. This film has long been praised as one of the greatest Stephen King adaptations ever made, a movie so powerful that even the toughest viewers admit it hit them right in the chest. Somehow, it made audiences emotionally connect with a man on death row, and that alone set The Green Mile apart from almost every film of its kind. At its core, this story blends supernatural healing, deep injustice, and raw redemption into one unforgettable experience. It's often ranked among the most emotionally devastating films ever made. But here's the twist most people missed. Beneath the familiar scenes and tear-jerking moments sits a layer of secrets that even hardcore fans never noticed. Today, those secrets finally come out, straight from the cast and crew who lived inside this story every single day. We're talking about hidden meanings, shocking on-set discoveries, and carefully planted symbols that completely reshape how you see Paul Edgecombe's journey. From Tom Hanks' quiet reflections on his character's spiritual burden, to the jaw-dropping transformation of Michael Clarke Duncan into John Coffey, to scenes that were nearly filmed in a way that would have changed the movie's entire message, nothing is as simple as it first appears. This is the real, untold story of The Green Mile, and once these details sink in, there's no going back. The wild part is this legendary film almost never existed at all. Before any cameras rolled, The Green Mile was nearly shut down before it could even reach theaters, especially after the lukewarm box office response to The Shawshank Redemption. Believe it or not, Shawshank was once labeled a commercial disappointment, and that scared everyone involved. Director Frank Darabont hesitated to touch another Stephen King prison story, and studios were nervous too. Executives openly questioned whether audiences would actually sit through a nearly 3-hour death row drama without checking out halfway through. That's where Tom Hanks stepped in and shifted the whole conversation. His involvement changed everything. Coming off massive successes like Forrest Gump and Saving Private Ryan, his star power forced studios to pay attention, even if they still weren't totally convinced. They pushed hard to shorten the film, worried the runtime would scare people away. What most viewers never realized is that Darabont flat-out refused to compromise. He took a huge risk by standing his ground on the length, knowing the story needed space to breathe. Every character moment, every silence, every slow walk down that corridor mattered, and cutting it would have drained the film of its soul. That stubborn commitment to doing it right laid the foundation for one of the most emotionally powerful movies Hollywood has ever produced. And the magic didn't stop with the script. One of the most important choices was building the entire death row set from scratch, instead of using a real prison. Unlike Shawshank, which filmed in an actual facility, The Green Mile needed a custom-built environment designed specifically for emotional control and visual storytelling. Production designer Terrence Marsh, already an Oscar winner, recreated the mile with obsessive historical accuracy, down to details most people would never consciously notice. That green linoleum floor wasn't random at all. It matched the exact shade used in Southern prisons during that era, and even the wiring, lights, and fixtures were period correct. David Morse, who played Brutus Brutal Howell, later said the set didn't feel fake at all. It felt heavy, real, and impossible to ignore. The Green Mile corridor itself was designed to mess with your emotions. The farther you walked, the darker it became, with shadows closing in and lighting growing more ominous. It wasn't just a background, it was a silent character pressing down on everyone inside it. The realism didn't stop there. The production team even built a fully functional electric chair called Old Sparky. Special effects coordinator Charles Gibson designed it to produce controlled smoke and lighting effects that made executions feel disturbingly real. Sam Rockwell later admitted that filming those scenes created a tension on set that never fully went away. Fidel's botched execution remains one of the most disturbing moments in the film, and the way it was shot made it even heavier. Multiple cameras rolled at once so the scene could be captured in as few takes as possible, because the prosthetics, fire effects, and emotional strain were intense for everyone involved. The cast later revealed that director Frank Darabont pushed things even further by putting them through a chilling preparation before filming ever started. For an entire afternoon, the cast was placed directly into the cell block in total silence. Guards stood at their posts, prisoners stayed in their cells, and everyone was told to simply exist in the space. No talking, no acting, just living in it. That quiet stretch wasn't a gimmick. It was meant to let the weight of prison life sink in and lock the routine into their bones. What most viewers never realize is that every major actor built deep backstories for their characters, even details that never appear on screen. Those unseen histories shaped every look, pause, and line delivery. Tom Hanks has explained that his version of Paul Edgecombe carried a much longer past than the script suggested. He imagined Paul as a World War I veteran, someone who had already witnessed pointless violence before working on death row. That inner history explained Paul's deep sense of decency and why Percy's cruelty hit him so hard. To Paul, Percy wasn't just a bad co-worker, he was a reminder of chaos and abuse he thought he'd left behind. Michael Clarke Duncan approached John Coffey with the same seriousness. He spent time observing people who needed constant care, studying vulnerability and innocence. That research quietly shaped his performance in ways most people never consciously notice. When John sits in his cell, Duncan keeps his movements soft and almost childlike. But when John steps into moments of healing or power, like curing Paul's infection, his posture subtly shifts. He stands taller, calmer, almost otherworldly, as if something greater is moving through him. Doug Hutchison, who played Percy Wetmore, admitted he pulled inspiration from a real-life childhood bully. He didn't exaggerate or cartoon it. He focused on that specific energy, petty, cruel, and smug. That personal connection is why Percy feels so unsettling and real, making audiences recoil every time he's on screen. All of these unseen character layers help transform The Green Mile from a supernatural prison story into something painfully human. And the symbolism woven throughout the film adds another hidden dimension most fans miss entirely. The color green isn't just part of the title, it's everywhere for a reason. Green appears when death is near, from the curtains in the execution chamber to Dell's sponge that should have been soaked properly, to the eerie reflection in Wild Bill's eyes when he first arrives. The pattern repeats constantly, slipping past the conscious mind, but setting an emotional tone every time. The healing scenes also run much deeper than they appear. When John heals Paul's infection, or Melinda Moore's brain tumor, it's not just physical relief. Every person John touches experiences a spiritual shift too. Paul begins questioning the morality of executions, while Melinda regains a childlike innocence, speaking to John as an equal spirit. John isn't just healing bodies, he's restoring souls. The film is also loaded with biblical echoes that quietly elevate its meaning. When John says, "I'm tired, boss, tired of being on the road, lonely as a sparrow in the rain," it mirrors Psalm 102. "I am like a desert owl, like an owl among the ruins. I lie awake. I have become like a bird alone on a roof." That connection reframes John as a Christ-like figure, burdened, abandoned, and misunderstood. Suddenly, small visual moments hit harder. When John's chains are removed before execution, it mirrors Christ being taken down from the cross. And when Paul asks John what he should do, John's calm response, "You be still," echoes biblical language of surrender and acceptance. Even the smallest elements carry meaning, including Mr. Jingles, the mouse who seems simple at first but carries far more symbolism than anyone expects. But that tiny mouse isn't there just for cute moments or quick laughs, not even close. Mr. Jingles quietly becomes the moral compass of the entire film, and once you notice it, you can't unsee it. Watch carefully who shows kindness to him and who doesn't, because that's the first real test of character in the story. Dell, despite everything he's done, treats the mouse with surprising gentleness. Percy, on the other hand, tries to kill it simply because he can, no reason, no remorse. Paul starts off wanting to ignore the mouse altogether, but then he makes a choice to protect it, and that decision matters more than it seems. That moment quietly foreshadows Paul's later choice to help John Coffey. Mr. Jingles becomes the test case for the film's core question: do the vulnerable deserve protection even when it costs you something? Every major character answers that question through the mouse long before they're forced to answer it with John. That symbolism hits even harder in the epilogue when we learn Mr. Jingles has lived decades beyond a normal mouse's lifespan. Just like Paul, he carries both the blessing and the burden of John Coffey's touch, a living reminder of supernatural grace lingering in a very ordinary world. Now let's talk about something most people miss completely: the weather. The Green Mile uses weather as silent storytelling, and it's slick how they do it. What's happening outside the prison always mirrors what's happening emotionally inside. On the night of Dell's botched execution, the sky explodes into a violent thunderstorm, chaos matching cruelty. When John finally tells Paul the truth, the world outside goes eerily still and quiet, like it's holding its breath. And John's execution? That happens under a calm, moonlit sky, peaceful and beautiful, reflecting the acceptance John has reached. Then comes the epilogue, and it hits differently. When Paul visits John Coffey's grave, we finally see real sunlight. It's the first genuinely sunny day in the entire movie. Every other outdoor scene is clouded, rainy, or trapped in darkness. The sun doesn't fully shine until Paul has carried this story for decades and finally releases it. Most viewers never consciously clock this, but it shapes how every scene feels. The prison lives in constant gloom, while true peace exists only in the light. And then there's John Coffey's fear of the dark, one of the most heartbreaking moments in the entire film. When John quietly admits, "I was afraid of the dark," it hits like a punch to the chest. This moment comes straight from Stephen King's novel, and it's the emotional core of John's character. Despite his supernatural power and almost divine presence, John is still deeply human. He can heal others, but he still needs compassion himself. That single fear completely reframes the guard's final act of mercy when they choose not to place the hood over his face. That wasn't just breaking protocol, it was kindness in its purest form, a small human gesture for a man facing his greatest fear. Now let's talk about one of the darkest dynamics in the film, Percy Wetmore and Wild Bill Wharton. These two represent different types of evil. Percy is institutional evil, protected by power and connections. Wild Bill is raw chaos, violent and unfiltered. When Wild Bill grabs Percy and whispers obscenities into his ear, it shatters him. That moment directly leads to Percy freezing during Dell's execution, and nothing about that is accidental. Later, Percy being driven into madness by the evil John forces out of Wild Bill completes a brutal karmic circle. Studio executives actually wanted Percy's role reduced, claiming he distracted from the main story. Frank Darabont refused, because without Percy's everyday abuse of power, John's execution wouldn't hit nearly as hard. We needed to see how systems protect the Percy Wetmores of the world while destroying the John Coffeys. That context makes Percy's final fate, catatonic and powerless, painfully poetic. The man who abused authority ends up helpless, trapped inside the very system he once used. And here's the twist most people miss. The real miracle of the Green Mile isn't John Coffey's healing power, it's what he awakens in others. Paul and the guards start out as parts of a machine, just doing their jobs. By the end, they're willing to risk their careers, their freedom, everything, to try and save an innocent man. That's the real transformation. That's what elevates the Green Mile beyond a supernatural drama. It becomes a story about conscience, courage, and how even inside rigid systems, humanity can still break through. John Coffey finds his own miracle too, and it's one most people overlook. After a lifetime of being feared, misunderstood, and treated like a monster, he finally meets men willing to see him as human. They believe in his innocence, they treat him with dignity, and they show him compassion, even when they can't save him. That matters more than any supernatural power. For John, being seen and believed is the miracle. And that layered meaning explains why this film still hits people so hard decades later. It's not just about healing wounds or curing sickness. It's about ordinary people waking up morally and realizing injustice when it's right in front of them. It's about choosing not to participate in cruelty, even when the system tells you to obey. That message lands deep, and it's why the story refuses to fade. And right here is where things get wild, because the ending you know almost didn't exist at all. The iconic epilogue showing an elderly Paul Edgecombe still alive decades later because of John's touch was nearly cut entirely. Studio executives wanted the film to end with John's execution and roll credits immediately. They argued the movie was already too long and that the nursing home scenes were unnecessary. Frank Darabont flat out refused. He fought for that ending because this story was never really about death. It was about living with the consequences of your choices. Without seeing Paul still haunted decades later, the emotional weight collapses. The audience wouldn't fully grasp what it costs to witness injustice and survive it. Shockingly, the scenes with older Paul were actually the first footage shot during production. That decision framed the entire movie as a story of memory, guilt, and regret. Cutting those scenes would have reduced The Green Mile to just another supernatural drama instead of the meditation on mortality it became. And real quick, if you think you know everything about this film, stay close, because revelations like these are exactly why we keep digging into stories like this right here. Believe it or not, several scenes never made it into the final cut either. Even with its long runtime, Darabont had to leave things behind. According to cast and crew, there were deleted scenes that added serious depth to the story. One missing sequence reportedly showed Paul Edgecombe's very first day working at Cold Mountain Penitentiary. In this version, Paul had never worked death row before, which would have made his moral transformation even more intense. We would have seen an idealistic man slowly realizing what his job truly demanded. Another cut storyline involved more moments with Paul's wife Jan, played by Bonnie Hunt. Those scenes would have explored how the mile followed Paul home, creating tension and emotional distance long before he ever mentions John Coffey. Fans still wonder how those moments might have reshaped the story. Now let's talk about the most unbelievable transformation behind the scenes, Michael Clarke Duncan. His journey from celebrity bodyguard to Oscar nominee is straight up unreal. Before The Green Mile, Duncan's life looked nothing like Hollywood prestige. Standing 6'5" and nearly 300 pounds, he worked as a ditch digger, then a bouncer, then a bodyguard for stars like Will Smith and Martin Lawrence. Most of his acting roles were silent muscle in the background. Casting John Coffey was incredibly risky. The role demanded physical presence, emotional vulnerability, and spiritual depth all at once. Duncan almost didn't audition at all. He thought he wasn't good enough to handle a character that complex. His manager had to push him into the room. Legend has it that when Duncan delivered the line, "I'm tired of people being ugly to each other," the room went dead silent. Darabont later said he knew instantly they had found John Coffey. To prepare, Duncan trained with acting coach Larry Moss, known for guiding actors through deeply emotional roles. That preparation transformed him, and the result became one of the most unforgettable performances in film history. To prepare for the role, Michael Clarke Duncan went all in. He studied people who needed constant care, watched how children reacted when they felt safe, and learned how to move with openness instead of intimidation. That softer physical presence was the opposite of the tough guy roles he'd played before, and it completely reshaped how John Coffey felt on screen. Even with all that preparation, Duncan still battled serious self-doubt. This was his first major role, and the pressure was real. That's where Tom Hanks stepped in, quietly mentoring him between takes, offering advice, reassurance, and guidance when the cameras weren't rolling. When the film finally dropped, critics were stunned. Many had never heard of Michael Clarke Duncan before, and suddenly his name was everywhere. He earned Academy Award and Golden Globe nominations for Best Supporting Actor, an almost unheard-of achievement for someone with such a short acting resume. Although he lost the Oscar to Michael Caine for The Cider House Rules, that nomination changed Duncan's life overnight. Doors flew open. He went on to major roles in The Whole Nine Yards, Planet of the Apes, The Scorpion King, and Daredevil, never again fading into the background as unnamed muscle. That leap from bodyguard to Oscar nominee remains one of Hollywood's most inspiring glow-ups. It's proof that talent doesn't care where you start, only whether you're ready when the moment hits. Now here's the twist most people forget. When The Green Mile hit theaters in December 1999, it didn't explode at the box office. It made a respectable $136 million domestically against a $60 million budget, solid numbers, but not the blockbuster studios expected from a Tom Hanks film. The real magic happened later. On home video and cable TV, the movie found its people. This is the kind of film you don't just watch, you pass it on. People discovered it, cried through it, then told someone they loved, "You have to see this." Word of mouth turned it into a quiet giant. It became one of the most watched films on cable and a massive DVD bestseller. This wasn't a casual watch, it demanded emotional focus, and at home, audiences were finally willing to give it that space. By 2020, The Green Mile was locked into the canon of modern American classics. It showed up again and again on lists of the most emotionally powerful films ever made. What started as a risky adaptation became something way bigger than box office stats. It became cultural memory. As the film nears its 25th anniversary, one question keeps coming up. Why does The Green Mile still hit so hard when other serious dramas faded away? Because it taps into universal fears and hopes. Fear of death, hope for miracles. The need to believe that even broken systems can still produce moments of grace. And the film never talks down to you. It doesn't lecture about capital punishment, faith, or injustice. It shows you the story and trusts you to wrestle with it yourself. That respect is why it lasts. The film treats the audience like thinkers, not spectators. Its themes, justice, mortality, redemption, compassion, are layered, messy, and human. At its core, The Green Mile is about what can't be taken from us, our humanity, our ability to choose compassion even inside systems that feel hopeless. As long as people struggle with those questions, this story will keep resonating. In a world full of disposable entertainment, The Green Mile stands tall as proof that films willing to confront hard truths are the ones that stay with us. From the careful visual symbolism to Michael Clarke Duncan's life-changing performance, every inch of The Green Mile was built with purpose. And yet, it never feels artificial or forced. It feels uncovered, like Frank Darabont and his team didn't invent the story. They discovered it waiting there all along. That's likely why the film has held such power over audiences for nearly 25 years. It doesn't play like a movie. It lands like truth, wrapped in fiction, but hitting straight to the core. And when John Coffey tells Paul, "You be kind to them, each and every one. That's your job," it doesn't feel scripted. It feels lived. If these behind-the-scenes truths changed how you see The Green Mile, it might be time to revisit it with fresh eyes. Watch for the green color symbolism we talked about. Notice how the weather mirrors the emotional weight of each moment. Pay close attention to Mr. Jingles and how every character's reaction to him quietly reveals who they really are. And if you really want the experience to hit different, share this film with someone who's never seen it before. There's something unforgettable about watching that first reaction, seeing the story land in real time. If you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's coming next. Drop a comment and tell us which moment in The Green Mile hits you the hardest. Because, as the film reminds us, we each owe a death. There are no exceptions. And sometimes, The Green Mile really does feel so long.